Hello, everybody, and welcome to Coffee Class with Young Screenwriters. Today is a fun day because it is Pitch Week, our new once-a-month Pitch Week. It's super fun. What it means is we have 3 writers from our community who are going to pitch their feature to us 3, and to all of you, and we're going to give some feedback on the spot.
Amazing.
So let's
Drama.
Drama. I'm going to pull everybody on the screen real quick so you can say hello. Here's our pitchers. We have Merlin, Julia, and Sean.
Hello.
And and thank you all so much for coming on. I know that it's can be a little daunting, but it'll be fun. John, do you have any advice before we go?
It's kind of a no-lose situation. I mean, I think, your approach, easy for me to say, this is a practice run. And if you do well, you get some good notes and good feedback, we hope. I feel confident about that. And even if you miss a few beats, you're going to get great, you're going to get good feedback. So there's no way, it's a no-lose situation.
Yep. I agree.
Could be fun.
Cool. I feel like I'm moving very fast today. I feel like I'm not normally moving through
You're
the
moving
beginning this
glacially
fast.
slow, Alexie, so don't worry.
Am I? It makes me feel so much better, Adam. Let's do it, I guess.
Let's do it.
So Sean is up first. So see you later.
Yeah.
Cool. And then let's see.
You want me to introduce myself?
Yeah, could you? So this is Sean. Sean, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're based, your background, and why you chose to write this story?
Yeah, I'm Sean. I'm based in Berlin. I come originally from Liverpool, England. I'm currently working as the German equivalent of an AD on film and TV sets. I'm an alumni of the Writing the Feature course. I've also done the Writing the Scene and the Writing the Short course. This was originally my Writing the Feature course, but script, but it's changed a lot since that first draft. And the script's called SLEEPERBROKE, and it's basically stems from my youth in and around the local music scene in the north of England, having lots of friends who have always wanted to be in bands, and myself being someone who played different instruments and was trying to make it, but actually never really trying. But that's the kind of world that it's set.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Do you want to tell us the title and logline real quick?
Yeah. Oh, logline. Actually, I don't have to hand.
Oh no. Okay. Sometimes I forget that let me grab. Here we go. No. That was my bad. I forget. I normally read them. Okay. I'll read it real quick. So, SLEEPERBROKE. When timid Becky gets the chance to fulfill her dreams and join a band on tour, she needs to negotiate the male-dominated britpop scene in order to prevent the dream from becoming a nightmare. Cool.
Yeah.
So, do you want to tell us about it?
Yeah. So basically, this is kind of like a musical comedy drama of the ilk of The Commitments, a very British film set in the 1990s Britpop era. So it's what would now be classed as a historical film set in the 1990s. And it is based around a young woman named Becky, who's around 18 years old. And she's somebody who's from a family of academics, and she's lived her whole life with this kind of map in front of her to go to school, get her A-levels, go to university, get a job, get a house, have her kids. And that's how she's always lived. But there's one thing that she's always had, and that's a love of music and the love of playing the guitar. We actually meet her at an open mic night with her best friend Kate, who's put her name, unbeknownst to her, down on the list to play. And when the guy calls out her name, she gets a fright and won't go up. And the guy just keeps calling out her name, and she just won't go up, and it's just not what she wants to do. And later on in the film, we see them both again together watching a local band play, and they're watching a band with a small amount of success. They've kind of got their first album out. They're very well known locally, but nationally they're just starting to make their name. And through friends of friends, they make their way backstage, and Becky sits there with them while they're all having a party, and she sits at the end of a sofa with her beer, nurses it all night, and just doesn't really talk to anyone, whilst Kate is the polar opposite, who's really outgoing, life and soul of the party. Becky ends up sliding out of this party, but on the way out she hears Kate talking about her and her music playing and her guitar playing to this band. Becky goes back to her normal life. She's finishing up her A-levels before the summer, which is the summer prior to her starting university. After her last exam, Kate convinces her to go to this open mic night one more time, but this time she needs to play. And when they get there, it's not that busy, so she decides to play. Unbeknownst to her, while she was playing that open night, these guys from this band had been there watching her. And through a small amount of fortune and right place, right time, it just so happens that this band, one of their actual guitar player has injured himself and can't perform on their first national tour that they've got coming up. And so they ask her to join. So she, first of all, has a moment of, oh no, I'm not good enough, but then decides, you know what? Well, she actually decides while sitting at home listening to the radio, and the band Sleeper comes on, which is a reference to the film name, playing their song from the 90s, What Do I Do Now? And Sleeper being her favorite band, she just decides, you know what, this woman's managed to make it in this male-dominated scene, why can't I? So she decides to go and do it. So they basically, she's got a week till they go on tour, so she has to go and learn all the songs, which in itself causes her issues, of course. So she needs to learn them at the same time as being really quite nervous, not enjoying playing in front of people. And then this all builds up to the first night on tour, where then she gets a major stage fright, and she's really quite worried, has imposter syndrome, you could say, and just really doesn't feel like she belongs and gets really scared. But she goes and does it anyway. One of the main runs through this section of the film is like, the idea is they're on what happened back in the 90s, they're on a tour with 3 bands and they alternate headliners. So these 3 bands, it's like a camaraderie thing of these 3 bands going through these different towns and playing their shows. But she always feels like she's on the outside, this woman looking into this quite male-dominated world. She doesn't quite feel part of it. She's from an academic background. A lot of them are from the working class background. She always just feels on the outside and not quite like she can get in. And a lot of this isn't helped by members of the other bands, not her own band, but the other bands, like just picking on her and making fun, and also just kind of looking through her and not seeing her as a person. This leads to one night when they're all out and they're all drinking, and one of the lead singers of the other band makes a pass on her, and she pushes him away, and then he uses basically kind of a power trip or a power dynamic to say, look, come with me, come back with me, and I can get you what you want, your dream of being in a band and making it in this thing. And she decides herself that she, even though that's the one thing she wants more than anything, she's not going to do it that way, and pushes him away, which then leads to ongoing problems later through the script with this one guy who really just hasn't accepted this rejection very well, and really just kind of takes it out on her with belittling behavior and just not really being very nice. But they go on through their tour, and this culminates in a point where they suddenly get a chance to be interviewed on national radio, and it's a big opportunity for the band, big exposure. So they all go and they go to this interview, and they chat about things. And when they are chatting, the presenter brings up this fact that the guitarist hurt his arm before the tour and they must have got a replacement. And he looks around and he scans around and he goes, where is he? Because of the assumption being he's a man, and they kind of laugh it off and say, well, that's her there. And the presenter just kind of laughs it off, and it's all a bit of a joke, but this all just kind of keeps driving her down and down, and the tour goes on. And she gets more and more into it. She gets more and more confident as time goes through. She becomes more comfortable in herself being on stage, but throughout the whole thing, she always feels on the outside. And this leads them to the penultimate night of this tour that she's been offered to be on. So they go to the penultimate night and they play the concert. And after the concert, they have a big party, and she suddenly realizes this party is celebrating for her because this is going to be her last night. Tomorrow night's the last show. This is for her, the last big hoo-ha with the band, and all she can hear is last. This is my last one. This is my last chance. This is the last thing. This is it. And I'm not getting offered the chance that I thought that this is all actually going to come to an end, and I'm going to have to go back to my mapped out life, which I don't want anymore, having seen this other life. And she goes and sits on her own and has a moment to herself to kind of think about this. So last night of the tour, they're playing the concert, and they get to the moment on every tour, which is, or every night, every show, which is the acoustic moment where the lead singer grabs an acoustic guitar and plays the acoustic songs for the audience. And she's taken off a guitar and she looks across and she just makes a split decision, and she just walks over and grabs the acoustic guitar off the guy and starts playing one of her own songs, which we'd seen earlier on in the film that she was writing. And initially she starts getting heckled by the audience. She's ruining the lighter held in the air moment, the moment of having this closeness to the lead singer. She just ignores them and plows on, closes her eyes and plays the song and plays it through and plays her heart out. And at the end, you couldn't hear a pin drop. And then the audience erupts. And she just turns and hands the guitar back to the lead singer and walks off the stage. Then we next see her walking down the street with a guitar on her back. Nothing's really changed. She's just the same person walking down the street with a guitar on her back. And she walks into a pub where there's music playing, someone's playing. She spots a friend across the bar. She waves to her. The pub's really busy. The singer sees and gives her a smile, and then the song finishes, and then then he turns to the audience and goes, well, I know you didn't all come to see me. As I promised, I have a special guest for you. Please welcome Becky Tomlinson. And everyone goes wild, and she just walks up to the stage and takes the guitar off her back and plays the song, which would be the end of the film. The last thing I would like to say is that this is a film for me that's, I really would like it to be a musical comedy drama, with music being quite an integral part of it. So a lot of it is about the music, the songwriting, the camaraderie of these people doing this, working their way through this scene together. And I think, if that's not too short, that is that.
All right, great job, Sean. Thanks so much.
Good job,
Great
Sean.
job.
Really good. Yeah, terrific.
Yeah.
The Commitments. Oh my God. I love that film. Alan Parker, isn't it? I think it's Alan Parker.
It is. It's absolutely
Alan
brilliant.
Parker. But did you say
I reread it recently.
Did you say it's a antique? What did you say? It's a
Historical book.
Historical film.
I mean, I can't. Really?
I have to say, because
I feel like I saw it last week. What?
I work on film sets, and someone offered me a job, and they said it's a historical job. It's an historical film that I'm going to be working on. And I said, when's it set? And they said 2001. And I was like, oh my gosh, 2001 is now cast as historical. But that's all by the by. That was just
okay.
that's just me doing an anecdote.
Sean, I have one other quick thing to tell you. One quick anecdote, which is being that you're from Liverpool. I teach a freshman class, and it incorporates some music and a lot of art and painting, a lot of stuff. And I said to them one day, this is a great piece, George Harrison, and I talked about how he how he conceived of and wrote While My Guitar Gently Weeps. And so I'm looking at this classroom full of freshmen, literally 140 freshmen. And I said, by the way, he was in a group.
No one knew who it was.
No one knew the group. I mean,
great. I love that.
I laugh, but I don't know.
It's just
That's bad.
I was,
Do you know who the Beatles are?
Oh, I know who the Beatles are.
Yeah. That's what
Okay.
John was saying.
Anyway,
Kids
Sean.
didn't know.
Yeah, because they had no clue. Anyway, Sean, really good idea. I've got a few things I want to ask you. Becky, you said here somewhere that the guy who the CAD kind of guy from the other group tries to hit on her, and he says, I can get you what you want. But Sean, I got to tell you, I don't know what she wants.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
What do
Okay. Let's see what you're saying.
Because
What do you?
she gets.
Oh, go ahead.
Because Kate says go and play, and she plays, and then she gets the gig, and she's on tour. So another thing, I'm jumping around a little bit. A lot of her, I know you can build this out, but a lot of her struggle is internal. Which can be a little difficult in a visual medium to show. I think there are a zillion different ways, to create obstacles from her. But as you were pitching, I kept thinking, well, she wanted to go on tour. She got a gig in the first act, I think, at the end of the first act, and she went on tour. And people treated her like shit, but I didn't know what she was trying to get to.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
And there's that, and the third act, there was that beautiful moment when she steps up and pulls a Clapton on him, but was she always playing rhythm? I mean, and they wouldn't, I don't know.
So,
Okay.
Just to drop in and add to that, you shared an earlier version of this with me quite a few times, and I've seen scenes that's kind of cool to see this evolve. And I really think that you've taken this in way stronger direction. Like this feels more like a movie, for sure, and the character seems to be more cohesive. But I'm going to add on to what John said, is sort of like, while like maybe you can sort of write on a piece of paper and say, oh yeah, her objective is to like, fulfill her dreams of music, but like concretely, what does that mean in Act 2? Like,
so
and
not the tangible.
Yeah.
So my advice, and this is a different plot, but like I'm just going to repeat it because I'm obnoxious. I think she should like start her own band at the end of Act 1 and be competing against the shitty boy band, and have the goal be a gig at the festival, a shot at the record deal. If the moment you make it that, she's the scrappy underdog and all the obstacles are about, I need to get closer to the, like, you can make everything, you can make all those internal moments that you want, all the things you would get by her being on tour, you can get with more concrete, like, external problems. That's my suggestion.
Yeah, that's going back to what we've talked about before, of making it kind of like a music variation of a sport film.
I believe in that format.
Yeah. I mean, and by the way, I know we reference this all the time in this class, but because it's such a terrific film, and it applies here. Whiplash, he wants, it's very obvious and very tangible what he wants. There's another film, a documentary that came out a couple of years ago called 50 Feet from Stardom.
Okay, don't know.
And it's really good, and it's Lisa Fisher. She does a lot. She's been with Stones a lot, but it's the backup singers, and to be a front man or a front person, I guess you would say, it's just impossible, or nearly impossible. And so that feels like, they're stuck forever in the back singing backup, which it feels like Becky.
there's an ocean of angst and drama in this world. Like there's so many broken dreams and sad people and, all of these great opportunities, but I also think like a lot of opportunities for like joy. Like there's something really exciting about like a bunch of young people. There's something optimistic about starting a band, it's even if it's totally futile and ends up in nowhere. I don't know.
If I'm honest with you, like one of the things I struggled about, because I've only ever pitched to you guys that one time before, I never pitched before. One of the things I really struggled with pitching was how to get across those small moments that happen within the film. So like what you're talking about, like these introductions of little characters that might be incidental, but they kind of make the film what they are. But I don't know really how to get them across in a pitch, which is limited, where I need to kind of get across my main points and things. So that was something I struggled with quite a lot this week, because I know there's lots of little fun facts that I could have gone on about, but then also know I shouldn't go on. So that was a bit of a struggle for me.
I mean, my answer to that would be, what are the story points? For instance, you've got the guy who hits on her in late act 2, and so he is the gatekeeper. I mean, he's the guy. He's the guy who can make or break her career. You would introduce him in act 1, and then play him through act 2, and then act 3 he says, if you want it, this is the night. You take care of me, I take care of you. And by that, but at that point, we have to know how thoroughly she is invested in trying to get there, and so it becomes a big sacrifice or a big decision. But as it plays now, he kind of comes in, hey, it's on her. She says no, and it's what I mean. Yeah. So that should build. Okay. I think.
And that puts him in like a false mentor.
Yeah. And those guys, I mean, in the music business, they're, you throw a rock, you hit 5 of them. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, I see that. Yeah.
The other thing I was thinking about, first off, I really like the changes you've made. I think it's like Adam was saying, I like that it's now Becky. Of course, I'm a fan of the choice to make it a woman. But anyway.
That was more to do with Adam, to be honest.
How dare you?
Adam made the comment about he's fed up with the Gallagher brothers, and then I realized that I am as well. So it's like I need to go the opposite of that.
Well, it works.
Sorry.
I like it. But so the thing I was thinking about is if her big moment, if like her big like arc changing moment is when she goes on stage by herself, then that would mean that choice is something she could have never done before. Mm-hmm. And as you have it set up right now, she does like it's not the same situation, but she does go on the stage in act 1 when her friend calls her out. You know what I mean? Like there's kind of like there's that parallel there to where I want to think that like she could definitely have never done this at the very beginning if that's going to be her big moment at the end. So just like, thinking about like what it could still be a moment where it like ends in her getting up on stage, which seems natural for a music movie. But like what about that choice is something that she couldn't have done before.
Yeah, I feel like I might have rushed on your guys' feedback, rushed too far ahead straight away. Like John, you were saying about, she wants to go on tour, but then she gets that at the end of Act 1, and what you just said now, Alexie, is maybe I've gone too quickly and actually jumped maybe half an act or something and just kind of got there too quickly. I don't know.
Or you got there at the right time but didn't have enough like obstacles, right? Like I'm always for get to the good stuff faster, like get to the conflict. I don't think you should like delay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's something. It's so sad she passed away. But Dolores, the Cranberries. Whenever the Cranberry, when you saw her, you thought, how did this woman get to be the front person. What she went through. Because she was so in command of the stage when she was out there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she passed away a few years ago. Really tragic.
Yeah.
What's gonna happen? I have one other thing I was gonna say. Oh yeah. I'm Alexie and Adam allow me one really bad idea for every pitch. And so is this, Alexie, is this the time for me to give you my bad idea?
We can fit it in right now.
Here it is. Okay, you ready, Sean? Sean, this is an idea you're gonna hate, and then tomorrow or the next day or the day after, you're gonna go, shit. Okay, you ready? Give her a kid.
I'm not with my kids when I swear. Yeah.
Give her a kid.
That's funny you say that because of where the story started, right, Sean?
Yeah, give her a baby. Because that's a big time obstacle.
Yeah, yeah.
That's my bad idea.
Alexie, that's quite is
what?
Am I writing a feature? My writing the feature script, which I actually finished the first draft of, which I was very pleased to have done. Had the mentor as a kid. It was a guy. It wasn't Becky, but there was a young kid involved in it. But give her a kid.
The only reason I say that is there could not be a bigger obstacle.
Well, it's also a sacrifice, right?
Yeah, Samantha, you knew Samantha, if I were allowed two bad ideas, that would have been my second, but I would.
Can I add on to John's bad idea? Like, I like the idea of like she has a responsibility for like a younger kid. I think maybe another option, because if she's 18, giving her like a biological kid is like a huge like thing that shifts the perception of everything. If it's like her kid, like sister or something, who like, and her parents are not around, like that gives the exact same weight without it being like, so like whatever it is, like if you give her like some sort of responsibility. Yeah. Because
that's an obstacle. It's just an enormous obstacle. Merlin, really? Wait, Dolores, she sang with her back to the audience?
Mm-hmm.
Is that true?
I don't know.
Apparently that show.
That's a great, wow, that's amazing.
Well, do you have any questions, Sean? Any other things that you thought we missed or?
No, not really. Like it was, for me, it's really interesting to pitch. And I really appreciate the chance to do it with you guys. Because it's just not something that I've ever done. And I struggle with it because I don't. The last time I pitched to them, John, I just went way too deep, and never kind of came out. And,
you did a good job, I thought. I thought you and you seemed really comfortable, and I thought you did a great job.
I think in terms of like the balance and like focusing on what's important, I think you've made a huge improvement. Like in terms of like how you went through the story. Like I feel like this is the good balance. I feel like in this, what you just pitched, I was able to picture the movie. And that's when you go too deep in details. It's sort of like, and then what happened? Like, I feel like you had the right balance of like going into the moments here. So I thought you did a great job.
And you were like rated like 8 minutes. So that was great.
That's
Your
good.
timing was really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that it's cool to see how we've seen you pitch twice now, and already it's a really big difference. So it was
that's
fun.
thanks to you guys. So no, it's been a fun process. I've been really busy at work, so it's been kind of mad at home, but it has been a really fun process. I've really enjoyed it. I do appreciate the opportunity, so thank you.
You're welcome. Good job.
Good job.
Yeah.
Oh, Merlin says it was in the early 90s that she kept her back to the audience. And speaking of that, it's actually time to pull Merlin on. So thank you so much,
Thanks,
Sean.
You did a great job.
Sean. And Merlin's going to
hello.
He's going to pitch with his back to the audience now.
Perfect. So let's see. Let's get this set up. Cool. So Merlin, do you want to tell us a little bit about you, your background, and why this script?
Yeah, so my name's Merlin Goldman. I live in Bristol in England. Been writing for a few years, started mostly with novels and plays, but sort of settled on screenwriting. I also make some short films. Well, my background is as a scientist, and I still do some science and engineering stuff. This is a spec feature I'm going to talk about, and it's inspired by my long COVID tinnitus and 5G conspiracy theories.
Ooh.
Okay.
Nice. So I'm going to read the log line real quick. Here we go. Hum. Unless, have you updated it? Or okay, cool. When a deaf woman returns to England to visit her parents in the village where she grew up, she discovers an intermittent hum, which only she can hear, is driving everyone insane. Fun. Cool. Do you want to... Let me just make sure I have my time right. Okay. Do you want to tell us about it?
Great, sure. So Hum is set mostly in a quaint English village that's seen better days. The story begins with Hazel Jennings, early 20s, on board a plane in Paris, which flies off. She's on the plane. A male passenger offers to help her stow her bag, but she does it herself. The plane flies off, and she sits in the window seat and watches silently as the plane passes over the Thames. It lands and she stays seated and buckled. A steward tells her to disembark. She ignores him, so he taps her on the shoulder. She jumps, then puts in her hearing aid, letting in the whine of the engine, and gets up and gets off the plane. She takes a train, then a taxi home. As it winds through her village, she observes the many eccentric characters trying to keep things neat and tidy. She spots the leader of the council chatting to the vicar, and they notice her, and she ducks down. The taxi stops outside her parents' house, and the driver spots the tower on the hill above the village being lowered into the ground. I read about them on internet. Say it interferes with your heart rhythms or something. Hazel enters the house. Her mother's shocked to see her, and they hug. She calls for her husband, but he's humming away as he does the washing up, oblivious. Over dinner, they ask her about life in Paris, her painting degree, and why she's back in the village when she said she'd never return. Hazel said she'd read about the tower. They explain the village felt it had to try something to generate revenue after what happened. Hazel doesn't think this is the right solution. They tell her it's pretty much a done deal. It's in the ground. Hazel checks her brother Toby's room. It's completely bare. And she goes to sleep in her old room, just as it was before she went to Paris. She closes the curtain on the tower with a cat sleeping on her bed. At breakfast, she says she'll cycle through town. Her parent thinks that's unwise after what she did. They'll drive her somewhere, but the car's broken down and it's just being towed away to the local garage. Hazel doesn't see why she should hide. It was the village's stupid tradition that killed Toby, but her parents say it was an accident and, it wasn't their fault. Hazel remembers things differently. Too embarrassed to wear her hearing aids, she didn't hear the flaming barrel rumble down the hill. Toby and her boyfriend were drunk, singing the French national anthem to celebrate Toby's acceptance to uni in Paris. The barrel crushed him. The village's fortunes declined after she campaigned to have the annual event cancelled. The bad press generated killed off the village's tourist trade for good. Hazel cycles through the village. Most ignore her as they're heading off towards the hill. Her ex-boyfriend sees her, but he is pulled away by a woman amongst her old school friends. Hazel follows the crowd and hides from view. The parish council leader explains that this new ultra-fi tower, the first in Europe, will bring prosperity back to the village. Everyone cheers! The telecoms exec company uses a metal pointer and a flip chart to explain that the tower will offer super fast Wi-Fi and unlock new features on all your devices. It'll be running test bursts before being switched on permanently. She shouts at her colleague, who reluctantly throws the switch in a control hut. A green light pulses on top of the tower. Hazel experiences terrible feedback in a hearing implant and yanks it out. Several others with hearing aids suffer the same effect. Hazel waits for everyone to leave. Her ex-boyfriend hangs around, so Hazel steps out. They speak in sign language. He asks her why she never replied to his messages all the time she was in Paris. She explains she wanted to forget everything about the village. His phone rings. It's the woman from earlier, his new girlfriend. He leaves, but reminds her that he still has her car if she needs it. Hazel goes to examine the tower, resting her hand on one of its metal legs. She feels it vibrate. Hazel visits her brother's grave, then enters the church. Buckets of rainwater stand on the uneven floor. She lights a candle for his memory. The vicar appears and asks her why she's returned. He blames her for the state of disrepair in the church. She runs off upset, and he snuffs out the candle. Hazel hurries home and passes a villager chasing pigeons. Two neighbours argue about recycling bins. Hazel gets home and decides she'll relax in the garden. Her father sets the boundary cables to contain their robotic lawnmower. She says she doesn't trust it, but he turns it on and says he'll keep an eye on it. Hazel lies down and listens to music and reads. Her father falls asleep. The robo-mower gets an update facilitated by the tower. It rides over its perimeter and chews through her father's flippers. It heads towards Hazel's bare feet. Her mother runs outside and smashes it with a broom and keeps on hitting until they stop her. Hazel asks her mother why she was so violent, but she doesn't know, but she's fine now. Hazel puts in a hearing device. The tower stopped transmitting. Hazel tells her parents that she's going to become a teacher. Her mother tells her the village school might let her help. Her old art teacher is now the head there. She goes to visit the head, and the head asks Hazel how she's coped since Toby's death. Hazel says she did what he wanted to do, what he would have done, and went to Paris. The head tells her that pain changes people, making them trust less and shut people out. Hazel says she's doing fine on her own. The head lets Hazel take over an art class, asking the kids, "Can I trust you with Hazel?" "Yes," they reply. The head leaves and the tower turns on again. The kids grow agitated and run riot, making a mess of the classroom. With the hearing aids out, she cycles away, but it's clipped by a car. Didn't hear it coming. "Bloody cyclists!" Her wheels bent, but Hazel's ex pulls up in his car playing loud music. She picks up the pump and he throws the bike on the back seat, and she says she wants to get away from this bloody village. They drive out and he asks her again about why she really didn't reply to his messages. Hazel says because she was told that he cheated on her. He says it wasn't true. She asks him to help her get rid of the tower and he agrees. They kiss, but then he tries to strangle her. "I don't like being ignored." She hits him with a cycle pump and drives off in the car. Hazel goes to the village hall to find the council to try and persuade him to not to get rid of the tower. But they're in a committee meeting and she's forced to wait outside. His secretary grumbles to her friend by phone about a haircut while shredding paper. The noise levels rise inside the room, so Hazel's worried and barges in. They're all at each other's throats. She runs out to seek help from the secretary, but the secretary's fed her hair into the shredder and got stuck. Hazel leaves and drives towards the tower, passing a field in which a man's being traced by a drone. She climbs the hill and tries to get to the control hut to turn off the tower, but it's locked. She peers through the small window. The engineer has hung himself from the ceiling. The telco exec appears. Hazel tells her that her colleague is dead, probably driven mad by the tower. She doesn't care and tells Hazel she's a Luddite and she should have faith in progress. Hazel says she won't turn it off, she'll destroy it. The exec starts whipping her with a pointer. Hazel's ex appears and intervenes. He shoved leaves in his ear and he now believes her. They demand the keys. The exec throws them into some bushes. Hazel thinks of a solution and runs down the hill, so the ex follows. They drive through town, which has now become a riot of all these villagers have gone mad with the noise of the tower. Hazel stops at a garage where her parents' car is. She sees the removals truck has got a chain and a hook on the back as she remembered. As they look for the keys, they're cornered by the owner. His business suffered badly after her interference. She keeps in talking and her ex grabs the keys. They escape in the truck while he rings somebody. They drive up the hill in the truck. The church bell rings out. The whole village marches up the hill towards them. The exec uses another set of keys, probably the real keys, to go inside the hut and turns the tower's output to maximum. Hazel and her ex attach the hook to the tower and pull the mast from its semi-wet foundations. But the villagers arrive and pull the tower back in place. Hazel gets out of the car, trusting her ex to pull down the tower. She encourages the crazed villagers to chase her. I'm the one you want. They let go and follow her. The tower crashes down onto the hut, but they're on top of her, turning her world black. We hear laughing and find Hazel blindfolded and tied to a seat. It spins round rapidly, and she squeezes paint from bottles onto blank canvases held by the giggling children. It's all part of the village's new tradition, an annual arts weekend. Done.
All right, great job, Merlin. Thanks so much.
Well done.
Thanks.
All right, unmute John. Great job.
Sorry.
Really well done.
Yeah, good job.
So, John, you go first.
Well, the detail, and I mean, the world it's so wonderful with the way you've kind of developed the nuance and the details of this world that that Hazel inhabits. So I can see the world, I can see the village, I can see her, the family, the ex, and all that. My question, which is frequently my question, I don't know why. At one point, well, a number of people say to Hazel, "Why have you come back?" And I don't know why. I don't know what Hazel wants. I don't know why she's come back.
Yeah.
So I think, Merlin, what you've got is this wonderful world, and which is really rich with detail. But things, and this is the trick, things are happening to Hazel. She's not, I feel like she's not active enough.
Right.
For a moment, I thought she wanted the teaching job. But that doesn't really go. So does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, no, I was a bit worried about that today as well. Yeah.
My 2 cents is I love the concept. Like the idea that like there's a hum and only a deaf woman can like hear the danger. Like that's a really interesting, like scary idea. And like I think there's an emotional thread here that really does work, which is, no one believes you and you know the truth, right? It's kind of like the fantasy of every conspiracy theorist is that they're right and that they have the truth, right? And like it kind of plays into that fantasy of like, everybody else is wrong. They all believe in this new thing, but it's not what it is. And that could be kind of dangerous in one sense and messaging wise. But I do think the idea is strong, and I think that comes across. I agree with John that like emotionally, what is like her big desire in life? Like if she's like kind of like, I came back home and I'm stuck and I don't know what I want, that could work. But like I feel like it might be stronger if like she has something she wants emotionally, and then goes out and get it, because her objective, as far as I can tell, is to make the humming stop.
Yeah. Which sort of, I don't know whether that in horrors, I guess in horrors, are they always trying to survive? Is that the main drive?
So not always. I think the only way that is and even then, like it's almost always better if it's get off the ship before it blows up, or it's like a specific, how are you going to survive? Like what is the best? What's the plan to survive? Is always better than just survive, because
survive is too broad.
Yeah.
So if you get back to the house,
In Train to Busan, it's not, if you haven't seen it, it's zombies are on the train. It's get to Busan alive.
Yeah.
Right.
And that works. Yeah.
Alexie.
And right now she could technically leave. So I feel like for the horror situation to work, where the objective is survival, I feel like every other thing has to be eliminated. So it would like really involve cutting all of her other options for how she's going to survive, so that it feels like you have that forward momentum, if that makes sense. My impression was that the objective was to take down the tower. I feel like that was something that clicked for me more a little bit later. I agree with Adam and John that this world is really great, and like you can get a sense of the dynamics there. And I think you did a really good job, like slowly escalating what the hum is doing, like making it more and more intense. And I think that whole idea is really cool. The thing that I think, unless I might have missed it, but the thing that I felt was missing is that we spent a lot of time with the brother backstory, and I wanted that to matter to her in the end, like to like her arc and like to how it ends. So it was like, if we were gonna hang out, like if we were gonna think that much about the brother and what happened to him, then, and like I saw that at the end, I know at the end she did fix the like she changed the festival. I want it to be tied more directly to whatever her objective is.
The tower has to have killed him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm being somewhat facetious, but Lexie, is that?
Yeah, that's what I'm. Yeah, it's
because
like
now they're. Yeah.
The moment it's just a hill. It's not quite enough.
Yeah, it's like you have the emotional track and you have the objective track, and they just need to be a little bit more on top of each other, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I have one more note, sorry, which is, you know, I actually really liked like the level of detail for the most part, and I thought like you were giving us important information. I think if you were pitching this in front, like in a room with somebody, though, the biggest flex you can do is to not read and to not have notes. Like if you can come in and just sort of be like, hey, let's have a conversation and then share your story that way. Like that's an energy that just makes you like 30% more persuasive, in my opinion. So just, I mean, this is low stakes, but I'm just convinced of that. FYI.
This is an interesting idea.
That's an interesting, Yeah,
if the brother knew the truth about the tower or something like that, that could be interesting. I think the cool thing is that you have so much, like I think it's all right there. It's just about like how to get the tracks again to like be aligned so that the emotion is pushing forward the objective and the objective is pushing forward the emotion, and then that it all kind of explodes. But I think you had the scene with the tower too at the end is really great though. Like I think I saw Adam enjoying that.
I mean the scene with the tower, but I didn't know that she wasn't in pursuit of taking down the tower throughout Act 2. So here's a strange parallel, but I'll throw it out there anyway. Oh shit! What is the name of the movie? Watergate. Watergate? Is that Carl Bernstein? That's Watergate? It's the name of it. Yeah, it seemed too simple. But anyway, I don't know if Merlin, are you familiar at all with the film?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Okay, so it's based on a true story, but one of the things in the true story that really helps that these two reporters are cub reporters and nobody believes them. And they have no connections and no one will help them. And everybody thinks they're full of shit. So that dynamic really helps the drama of the story, because everybody's going, why don't you guys shut up and go away? And they go, no, we believe what we believe. That, for me, for Hazel, is that if it's stop the tower, bring down the tower, stop 3 Mile Island, whatever it is, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And you've got the design of it, because it's one small person fighting the community.
Yeah.
So the mayor or the whatever would be the person who says she's wrong, make her shut up and go away. She's crazy.
Yeah.
So that starts to build obstacles.
Yeah.
Is this town like what was I gonna say? Where is the town like isolated, or how are you picturing it? Because I was thinking back to the note about like thinking about like survival, how you were talking about it like as a horror, and it makes me wonder like if she's there and like there's a ferry that gets them back to the mainland, so everyone's stuck there for a little bit. That might be a little too cliche, but if you can like limit her options, that might be something that wouldn't change too much, but would just give us.
Yeah.
I thought you
Also,
meant like a ferry. I thought you meant a ferry. I said suddenly it went.
Oh yeah.
Comes in with a wand and she says that you have to stay here, little girl.
And by like making it like really, really isolated, you can like maybe answer why like the tower isn't like being built by like AT&T or something, you know?
Bizarrely, it turns out this actually is happening. They are going to build these new experimental towers. I mean, the only other thing I thought of was if the tower really literally was killing the villagers. And the moment I've just got them attacking things that are annoying.
So just sort of just for my understanding, who's building the tower and why? Unless that's not important, because that doesn't have to be important necessarily.
Oh, well, you know, a Vodafone type company.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Like, were they trying to like, you know, get this reaction, or is this like an unemployed consequence of the technology?
Yeah,
Gotcha. Because that would be kind of interesting. Very different story.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
You have any questions?
Merlin,
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
John, what are you saying?
Merlin, I was just going to say, there's a brilliant film done in, speaking of old films or whatever. It's called Local Hero.
Yeah. That's a good film. Yeah.
Do you know the film?
Yeah.
I love that film. Yeah. Bill Forsyth, huh?
Yeah. The motorbike that keeps nearly running the lead over. Yeah,
I mean, and it's a little town. I mean, Burt Lancaster, Peter Riegert. It's a great little film.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or Wicker Man. That's another one, maybe.
Wicker Man. Yeah. Good job.
Good. Thanks very much.
Do you have any questions for us or any thoughts about like the story that you want to run by?
No, I think that's fine. Yeah, I think that's a lot to go on. Yeah, I've got all the pieces just in the wrong order, I think. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good job.
Great job.
Thanks so much.
And now we have our final pitcher, Julia. Here we go. Hello.
Hi. Welcome.
Hi. How are you?
Good. You?
Good.
I'm good. I'm frazzled. Can't you tell?
I couldn't.
There we go. Okay. I'm like so technologically challenged. Do I sound okay?
You sound great.
Do.
You sound great.
All right. Let's do
Awesome.
this.
Cool. So do you want to tell us I need to fix it. I always forget to fix the screen. There we go. Cool. Do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself? Where you're from, why this script?
Yeah, okay. So hi, I'm Julia Hladkowicz. I'm originally from Canada. I'm a stand-up comedian and an actor. I've been doing comedy for 14 years. And I moved to LA about 4.5 years ago. And I decided to write this story now because when COVID hit, my apartment in Hollywood got mold, and my husband and I moved back to Canada for a bit and lived with my parents. And while I was there, I auditioned for so many terrible movies of the week, like Hallmark style movies, and I didn't book any of them. And I was like, you know what? Screw this. I'm gonna do something about this. And then so that's why I decided to write this script, which is called Trapped in the Ever After.
Amazing. Thank you. Yeah. I'm going to read the log line real quick. I'm excited. This one's fun. A narcissistic, insecure writer finds herself stuck in a cheesy Hallmark movie. She must write her way out and conquer her inner saboteur so she can save herself and loved ones from a life in rom-com purgatory.
Oh my God.
I always forget to get my timer going so I can help out. All right. Cool. You wanna tell us about it?
Yeah, I would love to tell you about it. Yeah, so like I said, it's called Trapped in the Ever After, a little play on Happily Ever After there. And it's a fantasy comedy drama. So think the movie Big, 13 Going on 30, Stranger Than Fiction. And it sort of explores the theme of what it means to live happily ever after, because it means something different for everybody. So as the opening credits roll, we see snippets of audition tape after audition tape after audition tape of a woman in her 30s. And this is our protagonist, Theo. And she's an actor who can't book a job and a writer who can't sell a script. And she's selfish and prone to self-sabotage. And instead of taking agency over her life, she blames everybody else for her problems. But what she really needs is validation and self-love and respect. So when the movie begins, we meet her best friend Langston and her. They're at her house, her parents' house. She's in her parents' basement where she lives, and they're rehearsing a scene from a terrible Hallmark movie. They're running lines, and Langston, who's just like this burly gay man who owns the coffee shop that she works at, is like, this is offensive. These characters are awful. Like, every single script that you audition for has like a stereotypical gay man and some prince who falls in love with a basic white woman, and she owns a bakery, and none of it makes sense, and it's garbage. He's like, you could write something better than this. And she's like, yeah, right. I would never write this crap. Besides, my agent is shopping my other script around. I have a good feeling about this. And then the next day, we kind of see a snippet of her, what it is in her real world. She wakes up in her messy bedroom. She smells a shirt out of the hamper. It stinks. She puts it on. As she leaves to work, her parents are watching some old tennis match on TV, yelling at the television. They don't know she leaves. She goes to walk to the coffee shop. A garbage man yells at her. A bird shits on her head. This is a classic day for Theo. And when she gets to the coffee shop, she gets a call from her agent. And guess what? Everybody's passed on her script. Nobody likes it. The biggest note is that her protagonist is not likable enough. And then Langston, her best friend who owns the coffee shop, is upset because the landlord raids the rent and he doesn't know if he can pay it. And just when things couldn't get any worse, Lana walks in. Now, Lana is her arch nemesis from college. Lana is beautiful and younger than her and prettier and books everything. And she's genuinely like a nice person, but like, you just hate her because why is she so perfect? Like, has she ever suffered in her life? Anyway, so Lana's in town shooting a movie of the week. And she's like, oh my God, like the other lead dropped out because of like drug related issues, but I could totally get you an audition if you want. You should do it. And Theo's like, yeah, I don't know about this. And then we meet Asif. Asif is an assistant and a regular at the coffee shop. He's an assistant at the casting house. And he walks up to her and he's like, you should totally audition for this sometime. And he gives her, the card to her, his card. And the card says producer. And she's like, I thought you were just some shitty assistant. And he's like, well, you know, I make business cards for the job that I want. She's like, whatever. Okay, so the story is set in motion. When she goes to the audition the next day, she's like, what do I have to lose? And then, of course, it goes terribly. She freaks out at everybody. She's like, this script is so stupid. Why is there a prince? She's literally losing her mind, being like, I would rather die than be a part of this. And then Asif comes in to try to like manage the situation. And just like that, a studio light falls from the ceiling, hits both of them. They're knocked out. Next day, unbeknownst to Theo, she wakes up in the Hallmark movie she auditioned for. Whoa. Her room is cleaner. Her clothes are nicer. She smells better. Her hair looks good. Her parents are more put together. She leaves to work at the coffee shop. The birds are chirping. The colors are brighter. A garbage man waves at her. It smells nice. When she gets into work, Langston is there and greets her with an over-the-top like, hey girl, hey, what's up, bitch? What's the tea? Let's go shopping, which he would never say in real life. And she's like, whoa, what is going on? She's trying to ask questions, but nobody's answering her really. It's almost like they're sticking to a script and referring to her as Tammy, the character she auditioned for in the movie. And just then a handsome prince walks in and says he wants to buy this coffee shop. And she's like, wait a minute. This is the script. She's in denial. She's like, no way, this can be happening. So she freaks out. She's like, no, no, no. She runs back to the casting house, which is now just an abandoned warehouse. And Asif is there. He's the only other character who's self-aware in the story because he also got hit by the studio light, right? And he's like, you know what? You could learn a lot from this script. Just don't freak out. Chill. Everything's going to work out. She notices he's holding the script, so she grabs it from him. And he's like, no, be careful with that. And she's like, yeah, whatever. She gets there. Where does she get? I'm all over the place right now. So, she looks at the script and starts making some little changes. And as she makes the changes, she realizes that she has the power to rewrite the script. And she's like, oh my gosh, maybe this could be my ticket back to the real world. She's like, I need to get back to the real world. And then I can finally prove that I'm a good writer and I can get the success and attention I so desperately crave. All right. So as the script says, the prince comes into the coffee shop the next day to finalize details of the sale of the coffee shop. And he asks Theo out. And she's like, you know what? I don't want to make too many changes from the script right away. And, you know, the prince is kind of cute, so I'll go out with him, whatever, no big deal. And then it says that Lana plays the role of the sexy condo developer who's supposed to seduce the prince so she can buy the coffee shop instead. And Theo's like, yeah, right, not going to happen. So she rewrites Lana's character as this hideous troll with fangs. And the next day when Lana, the hideous troll, comes to the coffee shop, she chases her away and everybody's like, you're a hero. And Theo's like, you know what? I am a hero. I could get used to having all this power. And Asif's like, be careful. And she's like, I will. And then we cut to a montage because everybody loves a montage. Cut to a montage of her doing crazy rewrites of the script. Like her and the prince go on a bender. They're just like making love everywhere. In a drunken stupor, they get married. She forgets. They get tattoos. They steal a car and accidentally smash it into her parents' house. They rob a bank. And as she starts making all these crazy changes to the script sort of takes on a life of its own. She loses control of it, sort of like in Pleasantville when they start making changes and everything, the colors start happening, but in a bad way. Opposite Badville. It's Badville. And like everybody's suffering because of it. There's consequences to her action. Langston doesn't have help at work, so his coffee shop's suffering. Theo's parents can't afford to fix the house. Lana, who is now a troll with fangs, bites the prince. He goes into a coma. He can no longer buy the coffee shop. And Langston is forced to close his shop. So Theo gets arrested because she robbed a bank. You know, of course she got arrested. And as she's getting hauled off to jail, she calls out to Langston. She's like, please get the script that's on my parents' bed. I need it. And he's like, fine. So Langston gets the script. And before giving it to her, he decides just to kind of peel through it. And as he's peeling through it, he's like, oh my God, she's been the puppet master. She's the one writing this. And she's the one in charge of all our misery. Like, what is wrong with her? So he confronts her and he's like, what did you do? And she's like, and then she tries to grab the script from him, but she only grabs the first half, which is the part that's already been played out and written. And he has the second half and he's like, you abuse your privilege. And he's like, you've been the villain the whole time. You were the villain the whole time. Rips up the script. And then Theo's like, shit, I'm my own antagonist. And I have been my whole life. So now she's in jail. It's like time stands still. Nobody's visiting her. She's burned all her bridges. She's alienated everybody. And then she finds Asif's business card in her pocket. And calls him from jail, as you do. And was like, you gotta help me. Like, she's like, I've changed. I realize that I've been wrong. Please help me. So he comes over to jail. And she gets out of jail, by the way, because she's still married to the prince. So his money is her money. Yay. And he's like, I will only help you. The only solution is to rewrite this script. But we have to do it in a fair way, in a good way, in a way that makes sense. And she's like, yes, absolutely. So she apologizes to Langston, her best friend. And she's like, I want your help writing this. Like, what? She starts asking people, like, what does your happily ever after look like? So all three of them start writing the script together and things start to change in a good way again. They make the storyline of Lana turning into a troll just like a dream sequence. So eventually Lana wakes up and she's still a pretty condo developer and she has this handsome brother. And then the handsome brother falls in love with Langston and the prince wakes up from the coma and they amicably get a divorce. And then the prince falls in love with the beautiful doctor who was taking care of him and he funds a wing of the hospital. And she's doing all this amazing stuff for everybody. And she's like, you know what? I deserve a treat. I've been so good to everybody. Like, what's my happily ever after? She's like, so she writes a storyline where she sells the script and it's a smash hit. And that's what happens. Everybody loves it. Studios love it. They're like giving her all this money, huge advance. There's bidding wars. And a studio offers her a huge advance for it. And they're like, you can also star in it. And they're like, if you accept though, well, if she does accept, it would mean she would be stuck in the ever after. But she would have everything she wants. So she's like, what do I do? And she's like, it's too good to pass up. So she accepts. But that means everybody else is stuck in the ever after as well. And her friends and family are like, well, you haven't changed at all. You're still selfish and narcissistic, and you're just doing this for yourself. So she's alone in her penthouse apartment that she bought with the advance. No friends, no family. Everybody hates her. She should be is happy. She finally has everything she wants. But, it's lonely at the top when you have nobody to share your success with. So Asif calls and it was like, you gotta reconsider. And she's like, even if I do, there's no guarantees I would even get back to the real world. So what's the point, And he's like, you gotta try. And then she realizes, she's like, oh yeah, the real world, of course. Like, what is wrong with me? She realizes how selfish she's truly been this whole time, and finally decides it's time to take responsibility for her own life and her own actions. And she decides to pull out of the deal. Well, the studio is furious. People are real pissed off. They're like, well, we're going to make the movie anyway because you've already signed the rights away. And then so she grabs the script from them and she starts trying to change it. She's like, I don't even know if this is going to work, but I have to try something. And they're chasing her around. She locks herself in the office and she starts scratching everything out and she changes the ending. And then she wakes up next day being gently shoved by her mom. She's in her basement, in her parents' basement. And the mom's like, you had a really bad concussion. She's like, oh my God. And it all comes floating back to her. She grabs her laptop, starts writing. Weeks later, Theo is back at work at the coffee shop, back in the real world. And with the settlement she got from almost being impaled by a light, she was able to help Langston pay his rent at the coffee shop so he didn't have to lose the shop. She bought out the down payment for the landlord. And then she gets a call from her agent and says that everybody's passed on her new script. And she's like, surprisingly okay with that. She's like, that's fine. It just wasn't the right fit. And then Asif comes in and asks to speak to her. And he's all nervous. And she's like, oh my God, like, I'm not, if you're going to ask me out. And he's like, no, gross. I think of you more as a sister. He says with his settlement, because he also got hit with the light, that he started a small production company and wants to make her film. And she accepts. And that's the end, baby.
All right, great job, Julia. Thanks so much.
Good job.
Great job.
Really good job.
That was really fun. Super, super fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Julia, really, really good job. I love high concept. I absolutely love big. 13 going on 30 is good. These. Yeah, you're right in the ballpark.
Can I share something really quick? Oh, sorry.
Sure.
I just realized we have a member of our community who is very close to your protagonist, Theo, from Canada. the writer in the Hallmarks. It's a little dead. We got some comments and. It's Theo.
So John, what were you saying?
Sorry, John. I had
no, it's okay. It's okay. Poor Theo. My heart right no. Julia, you're really. You're close. The setup is great. Here's what the second act. By the way, your second act's going to run really long. I believe it's long. It's going to run long. She's not. And I think maybe I missed it, but you help me out. Theo. She's not trying to get back to the real world. Here's where you're gonna. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. No, you continue.
So she's not. What is she? I'm sorry. I just go back to this because this is the guts of it. What does she want in Act 2? Because in Act 1, she just wants to get a gig, right?
Well, in Act 1, she wants to sell a script. She wants to have like to be respected. So it's more than just getting, you know, some shitty acting job. She like actually wants to be someone of worth with her own writing.
All right.
I think this question, John, you're trying to get at is like when she's in the fantasy world and she's like abusing her powers.
Yes.
Like there's a sequence of events that's very strong where it's sort of like,
yeah.
John, I think there's a siren going on for you.
Oh, I can mute real quick.
Yeah, just mute for a second. Thank you. Thank you. Go crazy. There's a sequence of events where she's got her powers. She's in the fantasy world and it's really great. She's like, you know, making her enemy a goblin. She's, you know, making all of like, her dreams come true for selfish gratification. And at this point, I guess what John's kind of trying to clarify, is this a means to get back home? Or, yeah.
Right. So at first, because once she realizes she can rewrite the script, she's like, oh, that's great. And a better person would just rewrite a nice little movie to get her back immediately. But because she's a bit of a shithead, she's like, well, let me just have a little bit of fun just first. And then that spirals out of control.
Yeah, that's where you're going to run off the tracks a little bit, I think, because rather than pursue an objective, she says, let's have a little bit of fun.
Right.
And that in terms of that through that second act through line will throw you off kilter. So, and by the way, I'm being a little rigorous here, but is she an actress or a writer?
She's both, baby.
Yeah, I know. I think if I were a studio executive, you'd have to clean that up. Because what you're doing is you're diffusing. Right now, she doesn't have a second act objective. I mean, this world is fantastic. This world's fantastic. I mean, this is stuff. Gary Ross lived on this shit. I mean, not shit, but Gary Ross, he wrote big. You know, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids is the same. You know, it's all. So, by the way, there's a good point. So Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, they get zapped. Basically, they get hit on the head with a studio light, right? And all they're trying to do is get back to the house.
Right.
But that's a tangible. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids is a road movie that runs through the backyard. So that is so right now, Theo, she's fooling around, but to what end? And those scenes, which can be funny, they don't have a point.
Okay.
So I think. Oh, sorry, Alexie, you go.
I wanted to share. So first off, I think that I love the world, and I think that it's like the things that you're saying. I can picture it being a movie, and it's one I would watch. And that was a lot of the comments we were getting as you were pitching, is people just being like, "Yes, I'm into this." I think it's just about figuring out how. Because like everything is there. So now it's about figuring out how can you make sure that every single one of these things that you have going on is justified by like the forward momentum of the story. And I think you're going to be able to find it, and then it's going to make everything line up. It's just about how can those things that she's doing be driving towards the objective, whatever it is, which right now isn't getting out because she goes on the path around. And there's some interesting ideas in the comments that I wanted to bring up. Samantha said, maybe if she writes it horribly, she can leave. Then she realizes that she actually has to write a good one to get out. And then there's this, and Dilla also brought up, it might be the rom-com fan in me, but I would have loved the ending being her actually appreciating the thing that people love about Hallmark movies, something she doesn't see when she's auditioning. And I think that's that's kind of an interesting thought that like after living in the Hallmark movie and making it go completely off the rails, it's not like she's like the #1 Hallmark fan in the world, but that she realizes like, oh, okay, I see like the benefit of like whatever it is. But
because the upside of that is that, you know, you're choosing for her to live in this Hallmark world. Like, why does it have to be that world? Like, what emotional journey would she learn from this genre that she would never, like if she was in a other coming of age sports movie, you know, like you could still be a writer who's frustrated with bad writing. Like, what is it specifically about her life that she'll learn from this experience? And I think like that type of choice, like learning to appreciate the campy goofiness of Hallmark movies where she's too pretentious beforehand, like that would make that more aligned. That's not necessarily like the only answer, but like I think making it more about like specifically these tropes, these challenges. And also I don't think you can find a way to keep all of like those great scene ideas of turning you know, the nemesis to a troll, all of those fun moments you can keep. I think like there's just a way to like cleverly like orient things in the beginning, being like what's the one way for her to get out spelled out at the end of Act 1, at the beginning of Act 2, like for having to be like she has to complete this Hallmark script as a good Hallmark script or she won't escape. Like if those rules are like the ticking clock that she's running it, like if that's just set up and the audience understands that will like give stakes and meaning to everything. You could keep pretty much most of these plot moments, and they would be different because the audience understands, oh, she has to write a good Hallmark scene, and her idea of good isn't what this world says, and that's a huge philosophical struggle that's really interesting. I mean, like she writes a great scene with great dialogue, but maybe that's not like what the prince, you know, that's not like his voice or something, you know.
Right.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
Brought up.
Yeah.
Just a quick thought is that we all have thoughts, which is always a good thing. If there could be an interesting thing where her time is limited, like where she only has 90 pages, no matter what she does, or whatever it is, whatever screenwriting inside joke you have. So like she only has 90 pages, and so she's using. I would add more consequences to the fact that she's messing around so much in the beginning, or like in the middle, I mean. And then she'd have to fix it in like a page by the time she gets there, like, or whatever.
If there's like a groundhog, there's a potential. I don't know if this will make things too convoluted to do like a Groundhog Day-esque mechanic in the sense of like she gets one rewrite, or like it will keep resetting until it's right, or something. There's a way to like get off the rails with that, but there's a way to use that to like keep things moving forward. And because then it's sort of like, well, she did all this random shit and now she's got to undo it, and then you just get logistical, and that's not where you want to be. But finding what those rules are and like how it feels like a clock that's ticking, I think that might help a lot.
Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. These are great notes. I mean, one of the things, by the way, before I forget, Julia, right? You might make note. Romancing the Stone. Romancing the Stone is about a female romance novelist who goes to find her sister, and she goes on a romance novel journey. And it's fantastic. So, but here's the thing with Theo is everybody's hitting on I think great points. If she's the heroine, if she's the protagonist in the movie that she's kicked into, and she has to find a way to get to the Oz, the man behind the curtain, to get out of the goddamn movie, then you put her in a world that's full of jeopardy. You put her on a mountain, or you put her at the bottom of the mountain, and she's got to get at the top of the mountain. That's the movie. Then you've got a clear objective. and you've got a ticking clock because she's got to do it by page 110. The other thing, I'm sorry, I'm jumping around a little bit. I think he's a great character, but I think maybe there may be a better way to better use Asif. Is the coffee shop is not integral. If the coffee shop is, but if he is her co-writer and she screws him over or something, because when he comes back at the end, you've got a nice touch there. He comes in, he's taking his part of the settlement, and they're going to make their movie. And she screwed her co-writer over all this time. At the end, she learns a lesson, no longer screws him over, and now they're going to make their movie together because they've learned how to make a movie by going through. He's just, you've got him in there, and I think there's a better way to make use of him that is coordinated thematically with a movie.
I will push back that I do think the coffee shop is a fun trope to play with. Like, it's always about saving the local business that teaches her the meaning of Christmas, or whatever it is. Like I think that's actually, having something silly like that is good. I agree with John that I think that Asif could be a little bit better utilized in terms of her emotional growth and why that specific relationship in her story. I don't have the answer, but you do.
You're so, damn it, you're so close to this.
And just to clarify, I think the reason we're all giving really specific notes is that this is 80% there. I think Act 1 is so strong. There's such a strong sense of character. Her normal world to her new world is so that really works in the pitch. You did a great job. And we're all super interested in the story, and that's why we're giving notes. The easiest, not the easiest, but in a pitch meeting, in a pitch room, this is the kind of movie you sell. Because high concept, they're buying you as a writer, certainly, but they're buying the concept. So this is exactly the kind of movie that you could walk into a room, you walk into Disney and you sell. But Julia, that second act, I swear to God, this is true. They will buy this movie and don't take this personally, but they'll give the writer, whoever that person is, one pass because they know the concept's there, the guts of it are there. And then they call Gary Ross and get Gary Ross to rewrite it. Right. Because Gary Ross cleans up Act 2. There are a bunch of people that clean up because the concept, the design of it. One more thing I'd like to add. The film Isn't It Romantic has a very similar concept with Rebel Wilson. It's a film that came out 3 years ago. Yeah, but there is a difference in your idea, which I really like. So that film is just about a girl gets stuck in a rom-com and she has to find the meaning of true love. Mm-hmm. This is a little different than it's playing with Hallmark and specifically a writer who's dealing with the artistic wasteland of Hallmark. That, and I feel sorry. That's what it is. But
the wasteland of Hallmark.
Wait, but I think mentioning this at the beginning of your, not that line specifically, but mentioning the difference at the beginning of the pitch is important, because the first thing I thought is, oh, that movie. How is this different from that movie? And just saying what's different.
Right. Okay.
I've got a really, really good friend, a very good friend of mine, and Alexie's met him, and he makes one after another Hallmark movies. And he's dying. By the way, he's taking the money. He said to me one time, it's true story. He said, he and his wife do him. And his daughter, bear with me one second. His daughter's boyfriend took her up to a rooftop in Manhattan where they lived, to walk up. They went up to the rooftop, and when they got up there, he had strung at nighttime, and he had strung little lights all around and he had music ready to play, and the music came up and the lights and Manhattan in the background, and he dropped to a knee and opened the ring and proposed. He took a photo of the moment this is such a terrible story now that I'm telling it. He took a photo of the moment, and my friend's daughter sent it to him to send it to Harry, my buddy. And Harry went, shit, we can sell that. And he sold it to Hallmark based on the photograph.
Oh my God.
Based on the photograph. I said, Harry, what's the fucking story? He says, I don't know what the story is. I said, they bought it? He said, yeah, they bought it. So Harry lives in this hell. And whenever, and he'll say, oh yeah, my movie was on the other night. And I said, why didn't you tell me? He said, because I didn't want you to see it.
Oh my God.
Oh man.
Oh my God.
So that, by the way, that Hallmark world is even more kind of bizarre than you know.
Alexie, you should share with Julia that document.
Oh, I will. After this, I'll message.
Yeah,
I'll share
there's
the
like a
document.
prompt of like.
You got a document from Hallmark when I introduced you to them?
Well, I think it's either I have an old one too. I'll show.
There's
show what I
something
have.
that's really funny. It's really funny.
Yeah.
Like how specific. Like if you set a movie at Christmas, you have to have snow. Like it's not an option.
Oh,
like
obvious.
if you have it in Arizona, so you can't do like they have all these arbitrary rules, and like there's no depictions of like sex whatsoever. Like very chaste kissing. Like they have their very specific white girl fantasy rules.
Well, am I allowed to say something?
Oh, of course. Say
Yeah.
Sorry, we're just talking at you.
No. Yeah. So I understand what you're saying about having a writer and an actor, but they're always like, right, and that, I guess that was just so much my experience. Like I probably auditioned for like 30 of these films. I'm not kidding. And so, but then as a writer, it was so frustrating to me. So I'm like, what would I do? So do you think it's absolutely imperative to have her be one or the other?
What's her
That's a good question.
I mean, I think she has to be the writer.
Right.
Because she has to write her way out of the movie. I mean, Julia, you're doing something that everybody does. It's based on your experience as an actor, writer, but does that actually lend itself to designing a better story? Right.
Okay.
And if everybody does that, I wrote somebody will say I wrote a movie and it's got 5 siblings in it. Why does it have 5 siblings? I have 5 siblings. That's a bad reason. So does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah.
I get. I'm stuck on this too because I get the note and I get your inclination because she's writing it and she's in it, and I see that is like I can see that being the thing, like where it does make sense for her to be a writer actress, but I think in terms of her arc it would be stronger if you chose one. So it's like one of those things like where it's like I totally see, like, because she's in it. She is acting in it, so it does fit. She's acting and she's writing, but it would help to streamline her objective whenever you decide exactly tangibly what it is, if it was related to the act, if it was related to the writing, or if it's not about rewriting the script, it's about giving the right performance. It's sort of like choosing which one you want to do. So it's like either it's about her being a writer and writing the script, or it's about her being an actor and doing the right performance. If that makes sense.
Okay.
And just one more argument for like that type of decision making. It's because like movies are very simple stories, and like there's only so much like bandwidth of information like to set up like if you're gonna establish like, oh, she has a father, oh, she has a dead end job, like whatever the information you're setting it up. Oh, she's a writer and she's an actor. It's just like 2 other like types of information.
Right.
And it's because that information is so precious in a 90-minute movie. That's kind of why these decisions are made.
Right. I mean, so Sean said, if she's only a writer, how does she get into the world? The actor part is important to that point. I'm wondering too. So like how, if she's just a writer, how it changes everything.
It does change everything.
She's writing herself. She's writing. Let me think about it. But I do know, and I think Adam, you and I are agreeing on this. I do know that you're going to get, it's going to muddy things in Act 2 if it's not one or the other.
I think it adds an extra 10 pages. It adds an extra 10 pages.
And and Adam made a great point a moment ago, which is, when you get one of these stories nailed down, it's so simple. Getting to the simple part is just a lot of sweat. The design of this thing, the setup is boom, got it. Now it's simplicity. And so when you go off in Act 2 and you're doing things that are not directly connected to her in pursuit of her objective, that's where it gets away from you. Does that make sense? I mean, gets away from any writer.
So,
Julie, I feel like I lost you there. Did I?
No. I guess I watched so many fantasy comedy dramas like this, and I feel like every character at the beginning of Act 2 does go off the rails a little bit and just decides to have some fun. And I mean, maybe I spend too much time on it, but that's also kind of what propels the more of the conflict, because it gets away from her, sort of. Like,
look, at the end, isn't she? By the way, in the third act, isn't she a writer?
Yes, I mean, she's always been a writer.
Well, then that, yeah.
So here's an interesting note: is that, like, if this is a slightly different movie, but this is it's an interesting note. If she's an actress at the beginning who's always fed up with scripts, and it's not necessarily that she's intending to write them, but just that she is like fed up with this, and over the course of being in this rom-com, she learns that she wants to write. That could be a way to do it too. It's just an option.
Would have to be a writer.
And just one thing I want to bring up is, like, this is all information, and these are all different choices that, like, could wildly change your movie. I don't want you to interpret like we're telling you that this is what you should do. I think because at the end of the day, only you know the solution. I think like the best way to deal with these sort of situations is be like, well, okay, this is all this information. These are all these opinions. What does this information tell me? And usually the solution is something different that wasn't what any of us brought up. Like, but we're saying it all for a reason. And maybe there's like and I would just challenge you to maybe like find the solution that we're not saying, that, and more specifically the reason why we're saying it, because that's kind of the point of this sort of thing.
If I had to guess what our reason for saying it is that we really want to know what the tangible objective is and have her driving towards it. And so when we're talking about, like, is she an actress? Is she a writer? Is she these things? It's because knowing exactly who she is and solidifying it is helping us get at specifically what does she want. And so I think that's the main thing I think that we're all kind of talking around. And so maybe, like Adam said, there's a solution that you're going to find.
Okay.
Better than us. And I guess maybe this is what I was struggling with a bit. So the objective, because I mean, the objective of any movie, like in Big, when he's a kid, when he's an adult, he wants to be a kid again. In 13 going on 30, when she wants to go back. Like, everybody's objective, and including mine, is she wants to get back. But you're just saying that the decisions need to be stronger to push that objective.
So the way I think maybe there's just one way of thinking about this is there's like a motivation for an objective, which is often like the broader thing. And then the objective is like the specific short-term tactical thing. Like, it might be like in the way I want to always use in Inception, the motivation is to get back to the kids, but the objective is the job. And it only really exists in like Act 2 mostly. Not that movie, but like that's kind of how I explain it.
Okay.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we are out of time today, but I know that we could keep talking forever. And if you want to join, if any of our writers want to come over into the Discord, we tend to continue conversations there and hopefully help.
Can I just throw, just to stir the pot a little bit, just one last thing before we go. So Julia, I mean, one thing is, if she's going back, and Adam said Groundhog Day, which is a brilliant film, but if she's writing her own film, And I'm going to keep with my metaphor that she's got to get to her actress, the protagonist in your movie has to get to the top of the mountain. And you smash cut her back to the antagonist, which is the executive producer at Hallmark, who says, you can't do that. Why can't I? Because it's got to be at Christmas time. She said, no, it's supposed to be on a beach. It's a beach movie. No, it can be a beach movie, but there's got to be snow on the beach, and it's got to be at Christmas time. Why? Because we need a Christmas movie. Oh, fuck. Boom, smash cut back to the movie where she's moving through this. All she's trying to do is get to the end of is this making sense? I mean, what's frustrating for me is I know there's a movie here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm so overwhelmed. No, it's
sorry.
I'm sorry. That was
the difference from my point of view is like in Wizard of Oz, Dorothy wants to go home, but her objective is to get to the wizard.
That's right. And by the way, it is so difficult to get to the end of the Yellow Brick Road. That's the whole movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Well, that too. So it's like kind of like what's like the Act 2 objective? And that's like a more concrete thing. And then there's like the movie-wide, like the thing she wants, right?
Right. So she wants to get back home, which is the Act 2 thing. But like the movie-wide thing is to write something of worth and be have accolades.
So it's
respected. Yeah.
So I guess my note would be like, what's the way she's going to get back home? Is like finish the script.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So
that's all.
So your name Theo says. Then Theo corrected it to Julia. So Theo did get it, but your protagonist here wants to come talk to you. So come find us.
I thought you were playing with the Wizard of Oz because you did the bonk on the head.
I mean, everybody gets bonked on the head, and
everybody gets bonked on the head.
It's always a bonk or a zap or.
Dorothy was the first bonk, I think.
Right, it's the OG bonk, but I can't join the Discord right now. I have an audition for a terrible,
no rush.
Oh, okay, cool.
commercial or something.
For a terrible movie. Oh, I've never said this before, but I hope you don't get it. No, I'm kidding.
Every time
so
I'm like, I don't even want it, and then I don't get it. I'm like, shit. Okay. Thank you so much. This was lovely. I appreciate all the notes, and yeah.
Let's pull Sean and Merlin back on so we can say thank you again to our writers. So thank you all so much for coming and pitching with us. I hope that this was helpful to you, and it was really great to hear your stories. It's always
great
super
job.
fun. And
God.
And again, come when anyone gets a chance. We're always on the Discord, so just pop on in and we'll keep chatting.
Cool.
All right.
All right.
Thanks,
Thank you, everybody.
Good job,
everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.